Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. As always, I'm going to give an extra to the end of the next minute so that people can trickle in, get settled, get your water, get your coffee, and then we'll get started. All right, I'm going to get started here at 9:01. Thank you so much for coming in to the next session of our Game Master series for 2025. This session is called Recognize and Reward, Leveraging Achievements, Endorsements, and Missions. And it is exactly what it says on the tin. We're going to go over ways to keep the attitude in your work environment very positive by showing that when people are delivering, when people are going above and beyond, that's going to be seen and appreciated by their peers and by management. So this is a series for people who know the basics of how to use SalesScreen as an app. We're not going to explain every single feature individually. This is for people who are ready to focus on either more advanced settings or how they're going to use SalesScreen to motivate. That being said, please feel free to ask any questions in the chat, including beginner ones. We'll answer there directly if it's something simpler, or we might use your question as a jumping off point for further discussion at the end, depending on the subject. So feel free to ask anything. It will probably be answered towards the end of the session. Today, we're going to discuss specifically a breakdown of the different achievement types, especially those of you who are used to our previous mode of building achievements. These might be a few new creator windows for you, and we're just going to go over how the achievements are structured and broken down now. We're going to talk about endorsement categories, as well as some best practices to encourage wider adoption of endorsements amongst your team. And we'll also talk a little bit about missions, which came out for real this month. Some people had some trials enabled for this. And we're just going to talk about how those can be used to reward initiative and encourage people to take a more tailored approach to their goals. But we're going to start with achievements. These are give you the ability to reward continuous progress. Even when you're not running a competition, these can always be running in the background as long as you set the parameters for your achievement badges. So these can be milestones tailored to individual achievement or a team achievement or even company-wide goals. And then unlocked achievements will be displayed on the user's profile in their trophy cabinet. They'll also be celebrated on screens and in feed posts. And the streaks feature allows users to keep track of how many times in a row. So if it's a daily award, it'll be every day. If it's a weekly award, it'll be every week. But it lets them see how many times in a row they've unlocked a given achievement. And that little flame indicator will tell you how many days they've unlocked the badge a row. And that encourages consistency. A sense of completionism can really drive people to push for another few calls or book one more meeting, even if it seems like it's really hard if they're running a streak. So that's something that you really want to make sure that you're pushing and that you're rewarding and that you call out when people unlock new badges and also when they have a streak going on. So both on and offline, just giving encouragement and show that these things are being seen gives them a higher social cachet. And that's true of achievements and as well as anything else in SalesScreen. So breaking these down by type, we have three basic ways that an achievement badge can be set to trigger. We have goal-based achievements, which are awarded when a user, team, or company surpasses a given number of an activity, or it could be target-based if you have a target set for a period. So this can be a fixed value, it can be a percentage of a target, or it can compare to a previous period. So you can set achievements that are just going to be awarded whenever somebody maybe makes more sales than they did the previous month. And this can be based on combined records or a single record, depending on your use case. We have the high score type, which is awarded when a user, team, or company set a new high score to be beat for the selected metric. So it's exactly what it sounds like. So this can be based on combined records. Maybe you're trying to do, the high score of sales total, or maybe you're just trying to get a high score on one sale, like who's closed the biggest sale in the history of your company. And this can be set from the start to a pre-existing high score if you've already been keeping track, or you can start it from zero. And each time somebody makes a higher sale, for instance, they will beat the new high score to beat. Finally, we have our top performer type, which is awarded when a user has the highest number or value of records on their team or in the company. So you can also pick, the top three or just the top one, but this is based on a single metric, or it can be based on an activity flow, a hit rate. So you could say, who is the best at converting calls into a longer demo meeting, for instance. And the activity flows can have a fixed percentage, and they can also prioritize low percentages in cases where you're actually looking for a low score. So all of these achievement types can be set to a variety of time periods, and they can be limited to specific teams. So if you have some metrics that make sense, say for your sales team, but not so much for your customer support or your engineering team, you can make these really specific and tailored. So I have some descriptions on these slides about how to create new achievements, but I think it's a lot easier when you can just follow along, and we'll create a few in my demo environment with me right now. So just let me switch my screen. Okay, so we're going to go into our manage section. That one is a new thing. We used to just have the achievements tab, which we still have, and that's where you can go to get information on unlocks for your achievement. What are the requirements? Who's done an achievement in the past? But to create a new achievement, we now go to the manage tab and then pick achievements off of the list. So right now I'm going to do a goal-based achievement. And I'm going to say that we want to give an achievement whenever somebody books 5 meetings a day. So I'm going to pick actually, I'm just going to pick total calls for this one. And I'm going to say when a user surpasses a fixed value of 5, and say that this value is based on a sum of multiple entries, because I'd never be logging just one activity that has 5 meetings attached. I'd need to log 5 different meetings that are all 5 different calls that are all set to a quantity of 1. And say that this is a daily meeting, and I can set when these are going to take place by a specific day, or I can say all days, which will mean all of your working days in SalesScreen. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that means later. And I'm going to say it can be unlocked at all times throughout the day. But you can set, for example, an early bird achievement and say, okay, it's 5 calls before 9 a.m., and that's your early bird achievement. I could select one team, but I'm going to say this applies to all of my teams, so I'm not worrying about that. If there's no filter applied, it will apply to anyone in any team. And I'll call this one high five. You have 5 calls in a day. You don't have to put in a description if you don't need one, but it is helpful. You can pick from a selection of badges that we have available to you here, or you can upload art of your own design if you want. And I'm sorry, the description is required in SalesScreen for an achievement, sorry. And then I'm choosing to keep on-screen celebrations for this, but I could switch that off, but it's always good to publicize that for everyone. And I can choose from a selection of different sounds. I'm going to go with applause. And then I'm going to save and publish. So now I have my new achievement here. If I go in, I can take a little bit of a look at what I just did and make any changes if I ever needed to. I can also manually assign this if I ever needed to, maybe because we haven't gotten all of our users in SalesScreen already, or somebody already made some calls that weren't logged yet. So for whatever reason, you can manually assign these achievements for the given period. And then a little bit more quickly, we'll go through the other 2 achievement types. So I'm going to jump into high score here. Discard my changes. I don't really have to worry about that because I hadn't made anything. And we're going to make one for the highest sale. So I'm going to say all sales revenue is my metric here. And I'm going to do it user by user. But again, I could do it team by team or for the whole company if we just wanted to constantly keep track of our own high score for sales. And I'm going to say this is for an individual sale. So whenever somebody makes the highest total value sale in a single entry, I'm going to let it apply to all teams. I'm going to notify users by email when they unlock it. It's a good way to let them know that they're being seen. And they can check in, see if they've gotten any kudos on the feed with people complimenting them. And give an airplane. All right, it's value on a single sale. I'm not going to change anything, but you can go through and make different animation choices for each badge if you wish to do that. I'm going to save and publish. And then finally, I'm going to make a top performer on most calls each week by team. Actually, we'll do total call time. And this is going to be measured in sorry, need to go to the actual section that says top performer instead of assuming it knows what I want. Picking the single metric of calls. And it's going to be whoever has the highest total call time here over the period of a week. Could go by target completion if they had targets on talk time. I don't in my system. And I can also choose other date ranges. I can set a minimum value if I only want certain amounts of time to count, but I'm going to trust that everyone's doing a lot of talking and I don't have to worry about the top time being very low. And this one allows you to announce the winner the next day because you obviously need to get to the end of the day to know who had the most over time. So it will be announced the next day. And I'll say rather than 9 a.m., I'm going to give people a little bit more time to trickle in, have their coffee so that it'll be announced at 10 a.m. the next day. Now, maybe, for instance, this doesn't apply to my inbound team. So I could say that this is only going to apply to people on my outbound teams. And I'm going to select a nice badge for this. I'm going to do the key. Save and publish. So now I have 3 different styles of achievement, and you have a little bit more of a sense on how you would use that logic. And again, all of these can be tailored so that you're giving it to an individual or picking a team or picking an individual on a team, as well as doing company-based goals. So I'm going to bring us back to our presentation and talk a little bit more about the nitty-gritty of best practices for your achievements. So basic things to make sure you're keeping in mind are to maintain a variety of awards. So you've seen you can do it by different amounts, different teams, different companies, different levels of achievement. And you want to make sure that you have different metrics captured, especially your most important metrics. Make sure you're looking at the top of the funnel too, though, not just sales. It's those daily achievements that people are motivated to get every day of keeping on with their outreach, keeping on top of all of their documentation, things like that really add up. So the achievements are a good place to build those habits that lead to those end of funnel metrics like sales. And you can also find metrics that can be used for your non-sales teams too. For example, if you can have bug fixes be a metric for your engineering team, maybe support tickets closed for your customer support team, things like survey scores or pitching in to update your internal or external documentation. Even if you don't have those metrics flowing into SalesScreen automatically, it's really easy to create a manual activity type that people can just log in, say whenever they've created a new article for your documentation on your help wiki, and that they can log those maybe with a link and get achievements based on how many they've created or updated. And then another thing to keep in mind is avoiding gaps, because people are very motivated by streaks. You don't want people to unfairly lose them. So it's very important to go into your date settings and make sure that you have your working days set correctly, and also that you have logged any public holidays that your company observed. And that way people won't lose a streak just because they didn't work on, say, Memorial Day in the US yesterday. If we have that logged, then that won't be held against them because they didn't have a streak on Memorial Day, for instance. And then the other thing is to make sure that these are worthwhile, either in actual rewards through coins. You can go into your coin setup in rewards to automatically assign a coin bonus whenever these are unlocked. And you also want to increase that social cachet. So make sure you're highlighting recent achievements publicly. So that means commenting on them online on the feed, but also mentioning offline, maybe in a stand-up if somebody has unlocked a particularly impressive achievement, or do a quick roundup of what achievements have been unlocked on your team. That's a good way to keep these in mind and make sure that people know that these matter, that these are being tracked, that they're getting the due credit. They're not just going off in the background and no one's looking. And on that note, yes, keep them top of mind. Make sure that you add some achievement-focused slides to your office screens if you have those enabled, and make sure that your achievements are set to post in social feeds. And you can also include achievement badge leaderboards in your dashboard so you can see who has the most unlocks, who has the longest streak, and make that something that is really being tracked. You can even create a whole separate dashboard just for monitoring your different achievements as like kind of a wall of fame for those badges. So that's something that you might want to try if you feel like people haven't noticed some of the achievements that you've already created, or to unroll a set of new ones. And then on a related note, we have endorsements. So with achievements, we have very automatic ways of reacting to people's accomplishments. It's all items that we're tracking directly as metrics in SalesScreen in some way, but sometimes there are ways that people are contributing to their team and making a big difference that it's hard to quantify in numbers, and that's where endorsements come in. So these allow managers and team members to give a public shout out to a coworker who's gone the extra mile or lent a helping hand, and generally makes your company a better place to work. And these highlight and reward specific examples of success at work, so people know what that looks like. They don't just know what their goals and their targets are, they know what kind of behaviors their team is hoping for. And again, it goes beyond those easily quantifiable metrics to celebrate things that are a little bit more intangible, a little bit more unique to the individual you're endorsing, that might have gone unnoticed if you were just looking at the dry data. So in order to create new categories for your endorsement, and I think we have time, we can do a demo version of this instead of having me just read through the slides. So I'm going to change screens one moment. To edit your endorsement categories that are available, we're going to go to Settings, off of the Manage tab, go into Endorsements, and then we have preloaded ones that come with SalesScreen that we suggest: Team Player, Brave, Playful, Knowledgeable, and these will all work, and you are free to keep them or change them. What we do recommend is if you have maybe some core company values in your mission statement, you could go through and use those as inspiration for some categories. That can be fun. But I'm going to go through and create a new achievement here for you. So this one, we're actually going to do one that can only be assigned by managers. So we're going to create an Employee of the Month endorsement, which can go based on whatever rubrics you either already have in place or would care to implement if this is new for you. And in this case, we only want to be able to give out one per month. Most of the endorsements, by default, you can give as many as you want, but we have periods of a month, and obviously there's only one Employee of the Month. So I'm going to put a cap on that, and I'm going to say that this is only visible to admins so that random people can't just give out Employee of the Month and have it done like that. And this is the default. I'm not going to disable it. I'm going to keep coins enabled, and I'm going to make the threshold fairly high so that it is exciting to get Employee of the Month. I'm going to say that for being Employee of the Month, you get 1,000 coins. And then that'll become available. You can see those settings that I already put down. And then I see here, Team Player is only invisible to admins, and that's not what I want. I want everyone to be able to give Team Player endorsements. So I'm going to uncheck that. And then I'm going to say maybe for Playful, I'm not going to have coins attached to that. I want to save that for some of my other items. So I'm going to update and disable my coins on that one so that there's always an endorsement category available that people can just give for fun and for free and without the stress of having to give away any coins. So I'm going to chat a little bit about some ideas for other endorsements. If you're sitting there thinking, what else can we add beyond that? Here are some suggestions that we have seen have some success. As mentioned before, if you have core values, you can use them as categories. And I recommend keeping a mix of ones where coins are required versus optional. That'll create just different levels of how serious a different endorsement is and how easy it is to give some of them away. And then keep a mix of ones that are just for managers versus peer endorsements. That'll give some extra cachet to the manager ones as well, and maybe have those be the ones with coins if you're concerned about people not having enough coins to give and take to one another. As mentioned before, you can try an Employee of the Month endorsement, and I just showed you how to set that up. And you can also create some fun social categories for endorsements, maybe a birthday endorsement that doesn't have any coins associated that people can just give to each other, like a public birthday card, or different seasonal or holiday themes, and maybe keep those with just low or no coins to make them low pressure. Maybe you have one birthday endorsement type that can only be given by managers that does have some coins. If you want to be able to give people a little treat for their birthday, that can be a lot of fun. But the most important thing is if you want people to use this as a system to help managers catch their team being good and have a really good culture where people are encouraging each other's best behaviors and showing how much they appreciate them, you just want to make sure that you're endorsing often, and it will slowly spread throughout your team, especially if the endorsements get mentioned offline as well. You could use the feed and player profiles to get an overview of your recent activity for a given player that you want to come up with an endorsement for. So if you're not sure, there's ways to track some of the work they've been doing. And then endorse frequent endorsers. That's part of how you spread that habit. So show that those who pay it forward are going to be noticed, they are going to be appreciated, and that endorsing in it of itself is part of the culture you're trying to build, and that's something that you're going to reward. So then finally, we've talked about things that mostly come from other people. Now we're going to talk a little bit about missions, which allows each individual player to take a bit more control over their goals for a day, a week, a month, whatever period of time they want to create a commitment for, and sharing that with others. You can also assign a mission, but we hope that as more and more missions are assigned, people get the idea to create them on their own. So missions in SalesScreen allow you to take a bundle of little goals. That could be a goal to complete an achievement badge. It can be a goal to hit a certain number of activities in a given metric. And it can also be customized to-dos that you can create that capture things that aren't necessarily being fed all the time through your data. And this gives your reps ownership over their performance, and it lets you check in and maybe give somebody a guided mission. If there's something specific you feel a certain team member needs to work on, you can create a set of tailored goals that'll help them improve on the skills that they're looking to work on. But it gives people autonomy either way, and it allows you to keep track of progress without necessarily micromanaging every day, because you can always check in on that mission. The user can always see what they've created, what they've done so far, and what they have left to do in order to hit that goal that's been agreed on between the player and their manager. So we're going to go through, we have enough time to do a demo for this as well. So I'm going to quickly show you how to create missions. The last time we did this, we were still in trial, so it looks a little bit different now, but not significantly. So if I click the new button here, I have the option of missions right here at the bottom. My choice, since I'm a manager, I can choose whether this is a personal mission for me, or I can create a mission for somebody else. And yeah, I'll pick Gabriella. So there's some pre-selected missions that are suggested, or I can create a new one from scratch. And I'll say this one starts for her beginning of next month. Just got to make sure I save that though. And we'll make it for the first week of June so that she can come in strong in the beginning of the month. I'm going to add a milestone of quotes sent and say she has the goal to send 10 quotes that week. I'm going to add an achievement milestone and say that, let's see if you can get us to 5 calls in a day at least once throughout that week. And then I'm going to ask her to update one internal documentation article. I'm going to save this and publish it. And you'll see it's announced via the browser screen pop-up. And if I had it enabled on an Office screen, it would show up there as well. I go to my feed. I now see that new mission, so people can like it, they can endorse her for it. I can pin this as manager if I want people to really notice Gabriella as one of the first people that's doing a mission. And I can also boost this mission. So I can give a certain number of coins that will only go to Gabriella if she completes that mission in the time frame I've allotted. So other than unlike endorsing where I'm definitely giving the coins, I can make these conditional on the completion of that mission, which is a little extra boost of motivation. So I'm going to press and hold that 50. I could also have put something custom. And the mission has now been boosted successfully, and she will get those 50 coins when she completes the mission in the allotted week. And then one last thing that I want to show you that is new for managers is our lab section. So this mission feature was previously available as a trial, which some of you may have had, some of you may not have. But previously, all of our trials of new features needed to be done by us reaching out to customers and asking if they wanted to be added, or a customer reaching out to us and asking for it to be enabled. We now have all trials for new features that are currently in the open beta stage available for you to switch on independently. So if you go to Manage Settings and then choose Labs, you'll see everything that we have available for you to test. Right now, these are both centered around Scout AI, which allows you to go into deeper insights on what you can do in SalesScreen, performances for individuals, as well as some help with competitions and creating dashboards and actual items in SalesScreen. So it's pretty cool and can be a big time saver. And so we hope you'll go through and try all of the labs that are available. I just switch on Enable Scout, and I immediately have this new tab of Scout AI where I can go in and ask some questions about my metrics, about my goals. And I'll just go in and turn on the insights powered by Scout as well. That's part of our AI features, but rather than being a separate place that you go in to ask questions, that'll enable insights directly on my users' player profiles that will give me some tailored information about them and how they're doing. So we hope that you'll use all of these tools at your disposal to create a more fun environment, even when you don't have a competition running. Everyone is motivated to do their best. Everyone's motivated to push forward and celebrate each other a little bit more. And some ideas if you're looking for ways to use missions in particular. A good way to come up with ideas is to look at the personality of the person you're creating a mission for. There's a few different player types that we like to talk about in SalesScreen, and I'll have a few suggestions on hand for each of them. So for your achievers, those who really love hitting milestones, getting a badge, leveling up, you might want to create a mission for them that includes some goals on completing a training or giving or soliciting peer reviews, improving help articles. And again, all of these are things that you can create as a to-do, even if it's not something you're already tracking in SalesScreen, which is another nice thing about missions, is it opens up the range of things that you can reward. Then for explorers, those who love discovering new tools, new ways of working smarter, that like to really share all of their new discoveries and learnings, you might try including some mission goals where they need to test a new business technique and then share the results, or find and share a new productivity tool or app, researching some industry trends to then share with the team, either on the feed as a little post or maybe as part of a meeting with their team. Socialites are those who thrive on the team spirit, that anything that they do, they just need to be working as a team more so than caring specifically what. You might want to include some goals for them on giving endorsements. That's another place to weave endorsements back in. Book meetings, that's going to be something that might be a strength of theirs that you can highlight, and maybe creating posts with their tips or weekly learnings that people can contribute to. For your killers, those who thrive on pushing the limits, being the top of the leaderboard, the winner of every competition, you can try including some goals on being the first to close a deal or hit certain tasks or goals by a specific time each day. And again, you can create an achievement that involves hitting your goal for a certain metric by a certain time of the day. So maybe you could create that achievement for everyone and then specify on a mission for your killer player type that you want them to hit that achievement at least once that week. Maybe make a task for them to climb to the top of a leaderboard or to one of the top places in a competition. So that's all ways that you can play to people's strengths and missions. And then also maybe include a few things that they're struggling with so that there's some tasks to check off that are going to stretch them, and also some that will work with their strengths so that they are given some confidence, they're given a boost. They don't look at that slate of tasks on their mission like it's completely impossible. So we just went over labs, and we hope once again that you'll go through, enable everything we've got going right now. There, everything is centered around AI, but we hope that you'll keep up with it and try anything new that we have roll out. We have a lot of plans this year. And then next month, we have a special edition of the Game Master webinar series, which is a live AMA with our CEO, Sindra Holland. So we hope that you'll register for that early so that we can get some of your suggested questions as soon as possible and make sure that they are included in the webinar. You'll also have a chance to ask some questions live, but it's always good to know what people are thinking in advance so that we can have a lot of good material ready for you, and maybe some additional tips and goodies as well. All right. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that this has been inspiring and that you'll have fun building out some new achievements, endorsing your team, and playing around with some missions.